Defense Minister Thandi Modise says she didn't feel her life was in danger during Thursday's hostage drama. The minister, her deputy and the minister in the presidency had to be rescued by police after being held hostage by war veterans at the St. George Hotel outside Pretoria. At the same time, Modise later said the safety and security of South Africans have not been compromised. So let's bring in now the former Minister of Intelligence, Ronnie, to weigh in on the ordeal. Mr. Kasrils, thank you so much for your time this evening. Won't you just shed some light in terms of your thoughts of what took place on Thursday evening? Could that hostage drama been averted?
Yes, it shouldn't have taken place in the first place. It shouldn't have happened. I mean, there's security arrangements. There are the protectors for ministers. How did these characters gain that kind of access in their numbers? So there's very lax security that was prevailing at the time. And, you know, given the events of July, the mayhem that took place there, but not only that, there have been occasions in the past from so-called, I want to say, military veterans who had virtually held hostage the Director General of the military veterans on a couple of occasions. A few years ago, it never hit the press. The person concerned was Max Szynski, and they, in fact, threatened his life. So the behavior of such individuals must have been so well known to the Defense Department that it beggars the imagination that the minister and the minister in the presidency, the two ministers and the deputy minister should have been caught out this way. And, you know, this has taken place virtually at the same time as a member of parliament in Britain was stabbed to death, as we have heard on the news. So we're living in pretty dangerous and anarchistic times, generally around the world, and certainly in our country. So there really needs to be an inquiry by government as to how this kind of situation could have come about. I mean, that was my first thought. And of course, the minister, and I really respect Thandi Modise, incidentally, she is very much bona fide military veteran herself, who served her time in Umkhonto weSizwe and then in prison. She could have been taken out together with others there. So imagine if that had happened, that would have certainly thrown the country into a tremendous crisis.
Yeah, but Mr. Kasrils, you know, the issue here is that according to the military veterans, there were promises that were made that were not fulfilled. And one such, I think, that has been circulated widely in the media was monetary compensation, compensation in the form of land and the likes. Now, you are a former MK as well. In fact, you've the member of the Umkhonto weSizwe since its inception. Were those promises of the 4 million rand and the like, as well as land, made to members of Umkhonto weSizwe? And do you view this as MK members just saying, we want what was due to us, what was promised to us that we have not received 27 years? Do they have a leg to stand on?
They don't have a leg to stand on. That's absolute nonsense. You know, the question of whether these individuals actually qualify as military veterans, the government should make this very clear. Who exactly are they? It's how long since we had an armed struggle in this country? This all ended pre-1994. You see people running around, whether it's from the ANC, MK side, the so-called MK military veterans of Kebi Mafatswa, who is late, of course, or those related to other organizations. A new organization is suddenly emerged called the Liberation Organization War Veterans. Have you heard of this name before? This is something that's just been conjured up. It's because they don't really, as far as I see, have a leg to stand on. So look at the history. When Minister Joe Modise, the first Minister of Defense in the Democratic era, I was his deputy in 1994. We immediately established what was then called a comprehensive personnel register. It was some 42,000 bona fide military veterans from the various organizations. And pensions were created, demobilization, training aspects. That was dealt with then and there. There were never such promises. This is conjured out of the air of 4 million rand. What utter nonsense. And land to be provided, where has that come about? The minister needs to be very clear to the public what actually is the situation. So post Modise and the subsequent ministers, I think they made errors. I'm not saying everything is rosy for bona fide military veterans. We can't deal with those who are bogus. And even the bona fide ones, still we find some issues arising. But what happened the other day and the claims there have nothing to do with that.
How compromised then, Mr. Kasrils, is our intelligence, according to your opinion? Because as you're saying, this situation could have been averted. How vulnerable is our intelligence at this moment in time, and how compromised could our intelligence be in the country if we do not get a nip on this?
Well, of course it's compromised and it's inefficient. And we've seen in the past, the Zuma era, what happened to government departments, what had happened within military intelligence, crime intelligence, and today they're not functioning. We saw this, the greatest intelligence failure in the history post-1994 took place in July of this year. And again, an absolute failure in relation to the threat that was posed against the minister on Thursday. So as far as the intelligence is concerned, that is not serving a purpose that we can say is commendable. There's something tremendously wrong there. And there are elements, in fact, and this was seen in July, who are out to embarrass the present government. So if there was no warning sounded the other day, perhaps there are elements who were hand in glove with these particular individuals. I wouldn't know. I'm not close to that situation. I can just attempt to answer your question and give my view, but certainly the facts show that along with many government departments, the intelligence section is really not functioning as it should be. There are very good people in every department, but there are too many rotten apples. But, you know, if I can just revert, if there's time, to the previous point I was making about the legislation. In 2011, the Military Veterans Act was passed, and that did open up, and I think it was a grave error, a further assessment of who should qualify as military veterans. But in accordance with that particular act, there's absolutely no question of promises about 4 million rand, about land and such like. And they had a database as well, which they carried forth from the Modise period. They might have allowed more names to be added there, but it's absolutely clear that there are bogus people and bogus organizations, people who could never have fought in the struggle, who don't look as though they're 45 and over. They certainly look under that age. So there's opportunism, there's fraudulent activities are being attempted, and we must not allow these guys to get away with their empty, hollow claims about 4 million promised and land promised to them.
Got you. We're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for that. The former Minister of Intelligence, Ronnie Kasrils, giving us his insight on what happened on Thursday.